All right, welcome everybody to our October 12th, 2023 town board meeting. If you would, please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this point, I'll open the meeting up. Any visitors who wish to speak? Okay. Come forward, please. Go ahead, your name, address.
Last time I was here, you called me bills for purchases.
I'm kind of losing it as a politician. Huh? Maybe I mentioned sending a bill to you or something. Was it?
I just make myself understood. That was-
How are you, Joe?
Good.
Just practicing.
Supervisor Harrington, Mr. Choppy, members of the town board and department heads. My name is Joe Thuin. I reside at 2704 Brunswick Meadows Way. I became a town resident 2.5 years ago. I'm the treasurer on the board of directors of the Brunswick Meadows Community Owners Association. And on behalf of those 92 owners of Brunswick Meadows, I'd just like to have an update where we stand on last month's request to have the town of Brunswick legally take over the maintenance, repair, and resurfacing of that half-mile of roadway, which we finally call Brunswick Meadows Way. Was there any updates at all?
If I remember right, last month we were short two members, so. We have a council here tonight that does our zoning planning. Mr. Gilchrist? Sure. If the next step in this procedure, if for the board to consider. Right. You want to come up? That's my name is Joe.
Hello, sir.
I won't forget that name now, Joe, I got it.
So as I understand it, the request is for the internal road within the Brunswick Meadows project to be dedicated and taken over by the town for maintenance and repair, correct? Okay. And so what the board will recall is Brunswick Meadows is a planned development district, and that went through full review and approval. And as with many PDDs, the board considered a number of conditions for the project. And on that project in particular, one of the binding conditions for the approval was that the roadway system remain private. And the conditions specifically included that the town would not take over the roads for maintenance, repair, plowing, sand, and things like that. That doesn't mean that the homeowners can't request that, but procedurally, because it was a binding plan development district condition, the procedure would require that the group, the homeowners association, request an amendment to the plan development district. If you were here a little earlier, that's currently being reviewed for the Walmart project. So Walmart is also a plan development district, and they're seeking to make some changes to that site. And Walmart has submitted an application to amend the plan development district. It's in the town zoning law, there's a certain procedure on that. But that's what would be required here legally before the board to consider taking it, is to amend the plan development district. Okay. So that application would be required.
Is there a specific application? Do we have to go through an attorney to get this done, or can we just fill out the paperwork ourselves?
It's my understanding, sir, that there's no specific application form. I'll give you an example with Walmart. Walmart submitted a letter through an engineering firm explaining what the proposal was and attached, well, in that case, a sketch plan. If you look at the zoning law, the procedure first requires a sketch plan. And the reason for that is an applicant shouldn't go through any extraordinary expense if the board is not willing to entertain full review of the application. So if you look at the zoning law, there's a section on plan development districts. And the beginning part of that article deals with amendments. It really deals with overall procedure. The first part is much more of a simple sketch plan and a written request. So I'm not suggesting you have to or not get an attorney or any other technical, but probably a good idea to take a look at the zoning law within that article on plan development districts and particularly the section on the initial sketch plan submittal. If you have any questions on that, the right department to ask initially would be the Department of Health.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Mr. Gilchrist represents another town meeting at the same time tonight, so I asked him to hang a little bit. You know, the other thing, Jim, usually at the end of the meeting lately, you were asking about solar, the status. I'm just thinking before I lose, that's probably still on your mind, right? What the status of the moratorium? I'm guessing, right? I'm just thinking, before I lose both of these, I'm gonna lose one, not both.
Yeah, Jim Tashik, 387 Brunswick Road. And I did have, I had some questions. You know, the moratorium, the basis for it was to maximize our income with harmony to the county, the other towns in the county, which was done. I think there was some sort of agreement. I know Steve Rooney and had worked on this with Bill Phil, both of whom are gone from their positions. And I wanted to know who was the town person trying to engineer this? Who was the county person on that side? And was there any progress made on that to get that the pilot payments? And some, what's the rate going to be? And then the possibility of the pilots disappearing and going over to a straight taxation of the property. So those are things that were cited in the moratorium. And I was wondering what the progress of that was. And then the other bit was the town's zoning and how the zoning might be amended to better plan for solar, because I know there was a concern that if you put solar on property that's, prime housing property, you're gonna lose to that taxation. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but I mean, that was one of the concerns for the moratorium. Now, once again, I would have liked to gone back to the public hearing that was held on this, right? But there are no minutes for it. So I'm doing this mostly from memory, and the notes that I've taken with talking mostly with Mr. Phil. And so there's only 2 months left on the moratorium. So I don't know if this thing, if you haven't achieved any sort of progress in these, are you going to extend it, or is it going to lapse?
Our deputy, Gordy Christian, was a very big part of negotiating the pilot with Bill Film, or working on it. As many people know, his wife passed away and today was the service.
I didn't know that. Sorry.
So he's not here. But council, can you bring us up to
Sure.
status a little bit at this point?
Sure.
Is that okay?
I do.
I see you did.
Just try to tire you out before
I'm
you
just
get.
gonna- I'll sit down. I do have a comment about Walmart. Actually, I'll let Andy.
You mind if I,
No,
not to disregard it?
It's okay.
So, 2 issues you raised, one was the pilot and one was zoning districts in which solar would be allowed. Let's deal with the pilot first. You're correct, Bill Film is retired. Bill was instrumental on the county's behalf in working through the solar pilot program. You may recall that the first pilot agreement that was negotiated for a commercial scale solar project in the county was in our town. And as the supervisor said, Gordy Christian was intimately involved in negotiating that pilot agreement, as was Steve Rooney and Jim, as was I, as with Bill. And the company there was the Borrego project for 278. And so we negotiated what was the first pilot agreement. The rate in that particular pilot was $8,000 per megawatt. And that took a bit of negotiating with Borrego, but ultimately we arrived at $8,000 per megawatt. The subsequent pilot agreements have been reduced to $6,000 per megawatt. And the more recent pilot agreements for the projects in town, they've been primarily, as you know, referred to as community solar projects, have been $6,000 per megawatt, whatever the the size of the project, which that dictates the amount of the total solar payments, pilot payments. Yes, Bill has retired, Steve has retired. Here at the town, obviously, Julie Hewitt, the current assessor, would be the point person for those pilot agreements and negotiating any different or additional provisions in the pilot agreement. The town has retained me to assist on that as well, on that, on the subsequent solar pilot agreements. So the issue really, though, for the town on the moratorium was, and it will dovetail with the zoning districts, I'll get to that in a moment, is the town had heard from various solar developers during the negotiations of the more recent pilot agreements that 6,000 was too expensive, that it impacted the economics of the solar projects, and started to get a little pushback from that. What we've done is we have requested from the county, and the point person, as I understand it, the county currently for the pilot program administratively is Deborah Graff. They have retained a separate attorney, Anthony Maney, who I understand is handling the pilot agreements legally. Those were the two people that I've been informed are, and that's Deborah Graff down in the county. I did ask Deb to send to the town, send to me, on behalf of the town, all of the pilot agreements, and if that were too laborious, to at least send us what the rate per megawatt in various towns or municipalities throughout the county. And the reason for that is we understand other counties, or just like that, other municipalities within the county are below 6,000 per megawatt. So we want to get a real feel as to what the rate per megawatt for these commercial project pilot agreements are throughout the county. We need to know that in order to determine the economics of the projects. Now let's get to the economics of the projects. And when I said it dovetails with the zoning district. So one of the things that any municipality has to look at on these projects is, if approved, what are the economics? We go through this under secret. What are the potential economic impacts aside from the environmental impacts? What are the economic impacts of this? What is the property currently zoned for? What can be used for? What would be the rateables? What would be the assessed value if it were developed in a certain way? And how does that compare to developing for solar? The issue with solar is the state of New York under the real property tax law has indicated that as a matter of real property tax, a municipality cannot increase the assessment, the real property assessment, based on the increased value due to the solar installation. That's under the real property tax law. But what the state allowed a municipality to do were two things, and they could choose. One is it could opt out of that and say, no, we are going to increase the assessment. Or alternatively, they could say, we're allowed to enter into a pilot agreement. Pilot agreements are limited in scope, generally limited to industrial development agencies. But under this section of the real property tax law, the state allowed municipalities, actually taxing jurisdictions, to directly enter into these pilot agreements on solar projects. The town opted to go through the pilot process. As I understand it, most, I can't say all, but most municipalities in the county have opted to go through the pilot program. And so if you opt out of that, then you're into a assessment issue of looking at what is the increased value of the property due to the solar installation. You should be aware that NYSERDA has put out a model assessment, a model valuation tool that, at least in my opinion, and I think in many opinions, keeps the assessment fairly low. Because again, there is a state emphasis on promoting solar development as an alternative energy source. And that's understandable, that's the state policy. But it has an economic component as well. So right now, the town has still kept on course with the pilot agreements. But looking at the overall economics of these projects, and whether 6,000 per megawatt is the right number, whether other municipalities are at 4, whether it could actually get back up to 8, like the Laredo, not Borrego anymore, but the Borrego project was, are things that I think the board looks at. You got a balance between having a solar project that needs to be 5 acres. Truth be told, I'm representing the town of Hoosick right now on a 20 megawatt project, very significant. These economic issues have to be looked at. And is it 8, is it 6, is it 4, what's it gonna be? And how does that compare to what the property could be used for under other uses allowable in the zoning district? Okay? And as you said, that could be residential development. Generally, when you develop property residentially, it ends up in increased rateables simply because of the nature of residential development. Usually subdivision, you're gonna get a lot more assessment through a residential subdivision than, quite frankly, through a solar project. That is not to suggest that solar shouldn't be pursued, it's just an economic issue for the board to consider. Okay? Now, as you know, in town, a fair percentage of the town of Brunswick is zoned to allow commercial solar. It's basically allowed in the A4 district, which is a good 2/3 of the town. And you might think the town then has allowed more than adequate area for commercial solar development. The issue is the solar projects have hooked into the distribution grid. Okay? And what the town heard from solar developers is, it's great that you zone 2/3 of the town for commercial solar, but we can't hook into the distribution grid. The grid is not yet built out enough for us to build out in the eastern part of the town, a lot of open area and available for commercial solar development. And if we have to extend the appropriate infrastructure to hook in, it's too expensive. It kills the project economically. So it's great that you have 2/3 of your town zone for commercial solar, but practically it doesn't work for us. And principally it's because of the economics. A solar company can certainly help build out the grid, but they're not gonna do it because it's too expensive. We've heard from solar developers that rule of thumb is $1 million a mile. $1 million a mile to extend the necessary infrastructure to build a commercial solar in the footprint. So what happened, and one of the prompts for the moratorium was applications that have been filed with the zoning board of appeals seeking use variances. And so what at least one company has said is, it's a different way of looking at it. We can't go where your zoning says commercial solar is allowed. We have to go where the grid tells us is available to hook in. And in the town of Brunswick, that happens to be an area that is zoned for residential use. R25, R40. There had been 2 pending use variance applications at the zoning board of appeals for 2, I think, 5 megawatt projects proposed for residential zoning districts. This raises, as you can see, a whole host of issues because they would be in close proximity to existing established neighborhoods. To complicate it even further is, you've been to many of the board meetings. When you have a use variance application, one of the standards is you can't get a reasonable economic return for the uses allowed in that zoning district. And if that were applied in its own residential, in many cases, you could get a reasonable economic return for a residential use. There is a concept in the law called the public utility use variance standard. And that's been promoted by the solar companies as saying that regular standard doesn't apply to us. We get the benefit of the public utility use variance standard, which is a much less strict review standard. It really does limit what the zoning board can look at. These are issues that were faced by the town, both from the economic perspective and from the zoning perspective, and potential impacts on existing neighborhoods in our town. So we looked for economic information from the county. The board did retain technical consultants that help gather information on whether what the town's been told about the existing grid layout in our town is accurate, Are there other options available? That consultant has reached out to solar companies that are interested in our town, and they're putting that information together. So that's kind of the status, and these are the kind of unfortunate, complicated issues that the board faces with commercial solar, both economic and their zoning. Where should these facilities be located? Okay.
And yeah, it's an excellent synopsis of the situation, I think. And all this was presented last year, almost a year ago,
Yeah.
right? What has the town done since then? What have you done to approach the zoning situation? Have you had any sort of meetings? Have you had any public hearings? Have you had any discussion about this? Is this, and then as far as like the situation with the pilot versus trying to go to a full taxation and what you call that model, right? If anybody in the town, go and get that NYSERDA model program
Yeah.
and compare it to an existing project that went through. How would it compare? How would the NYSERDA, what would the NYSERDA payoff taxation be versus the pilot? This is fairly simply done. This is like a student waiting to the last minute to write a paper. Now, this is procrastination. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, okay. Andy, thank you very much. You have an excellent, I think you have an excellent memory and grasp on details.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Now, I also have a question about the Walmart. You know, there's precious little information. I looked at the maps, the plans here. There's precious little information on there. And I'm not directing questions to the Walmart people. It's just, I would like to see some description of these areas. For example, is the seasonal thing, is that going to be a fence around that? Is there going to be a canopy over it? Is there going to be a kiosk for cashiers or something out there? You know, there's always this important, right? And then as far as like the container area, you've got to get the materials into those containers. And they're going to be like, is there going to be like constant forklift traffic through this area? And I don't know, I think we might have to do this at night. You're going to have to get tractor trailers close to those containers or shuttle with forklifts, right? Now, I'm not asking these, but these are things I think should be, in the information going in the building department. Though. And the same thing with the area for the pickup. Is there going to be a canopy over those to be out of the weather? Is there going to be a Walmart person? Is there a kiosk out there? Or how do they check this? And the other thing is with the traffic pattern in front of the store. I think that the CDTA bus goes through there. There's a bus stop, so I think that's going to have to be considered, right? And then also for parking, you know, if you have what the containers might be, you know, if you're going to have a lot of truck traffic around there, you can't consider the traffic, the area being covered with the tractor trailers, if you have to have tractor trailers, or if you have forklifts. You can't consider those parking spots, because there's going to be, somebody leaves a car there overnight for some reason, somebody went to the marijuana store and forgot to pick up their car, for example, which is just out the way. You know, you can't consider that the transit area for the movement of goods. You can't consider that parking spaces. Right? Okay. Thank you very much.
Again, that's a PDD, and tonight, in order to change the PDD, or just change the word, they need to approach the board, which they did tonight with a sketch plan to explain what's happening. Now, the next step is the legislative decision.
To determine whether you want to move forward with a full review.
So tonight, we just looked at the sketch plan, and this is the board's prerogative to make a decision. Do we move forward, or is that the end of it? If it's the end of it, you put whatever color you want on it, you know? tonight with the sketch plans, so we better understand everything, which we do, so. Okay, Jim?
Jim Murray, 126 McChesney Avenue, Troy, New York. Figured since Jim teed it up, I'll follow through. If Walmart came to you today, and put all those containers in a new project, I think I know what your answer would be. You're not going to approve that project with 17 or whatever the number of storage containers is out front. They're ugly. Have you been by there? Go by, please. They are not attractive. And you may think they're benign, they just sit there. They don't. They're in and out all day, all night. There's forklifts, there's dropping of stuff in them. They're very loud. I live 150 yards from corner to corner from where those trailers are to my bedroom. So we now operate at night with a fan and a white noise machine. Okay? So one of the things that was questioned tonight was they said that there would not be night activity. I asked the store manager that same question. Would there be store activity or night activity? And it would be very limited. It's 5 out of 7 nights and 3 times a night.
You mean in the future, Jim, you talking or
Well,
now?
that you asked, I think you asked the question, would
Yeah,
there be
okay.
night activity? And it was like, no.
Right.
I asked that same question
Okay.
when those, which I guess are not really legally there. And I was told, oh no, it's just this first week. Well, it's been since June or July, whenever they were
Even
in.
during this construction?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I
It's,
got you.
it's noisy.
Yeah, I can believe that.
All right, so when you're considering whether to go forward or not, one of the things I would suggest, instead of putting them where the 3 residences are, they're still there, or 4 actually, go out to Route 7. I guess the answer will be, oh, we don't want to do that, because they are ugly. You're not going to want them out there. Okay, so. So anyway, when we put the market in, the grocery part, we allow, or the board, or whoever approved it, said, we don't need all the green space because Walmart needs that parking to run their store. So we took the big berm down in front of my house because they needed 11 more parking spaces to make it a go. So if you put the 17 storage containers there semi-permanently, I guess they don't need parking anymore, fewer customers? I don't know. But also what Jim said, where the tractor trailers back up, where the forklift goes, those are all parking spaces. So if, I think if you misguided, say, this is fine, I would like you to suggest that they restore the green space so I don't gotta look at it. And that's it for now.
Thank you, sir. All right, anybody else at this point? We've got public access at the end also. But
Sorry.
tip that down there so you can hear.
Hi, I'm Kathy Mulligan.
Andy, we can probably free you up maybe, but it's up to you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I live in Brunswick, Sugar Hill Apartments. I have some questions about the paid ambulance service in town.
The paid ambulance service?
Yes,
Okay.
there are 3 ambulance bays there. Do you know how many rigs are in there?
Well, different, right? Some days there's a few there, next day there's nothing, right?
Is that what the contract specifies?
There's no contract. We don't have a contract.
So sometimes there are no ambulances there?
So, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your point. You're,
There are 3
Yeah.
ambulance bays on an average 24-hour period. How many ambulances are parked there?
Mark, public safety.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I mean,
Not either.
they have, I believe, more than, well, they have 3 bays, both sides. I mean, there could potentially, there's maybe ambulances there, but there may not be personnel for them.
Okay, well, on their website, Mohawk says they provide 24/7 service. So if there's no one there.
They provide 24/7 service, but the question is, where the service coming from? They are 24/7, but it might be coming out of Albany or Schenectady.
Okay. So do you
That answers
know
that.
how many employees are there 24/7?
What they're saying is they provide it 24/7. Your question is there a dedicated Brunswick ambulance? What you're asking.
Right. I am, because that's a paid ambulance service.
Not from the town.
Not from the town. We don't pay them.
Our taxes don't pay for that
No.
property? Who does?
Whoever receives the call, correct?
Yeah, it's, the town doesn't pay Mohawk Ambulance anything for that service.
Okay.
I believe the original agreement way back when, long before me, was a BLS ambulance 24/7. And they generally provided an ALS ambulance. But I don't know exactly how many, are there during the day versus the night, et cetera.
Who does know that?
I would say Mohawk Ambulance, I would talk to them and ask them.
Okay, because I did email them, but I didn't get a response.
Okay.
So you also probably don't know what geographical area it covers? The one on Chesney Avenue?
What area that? The original contract, we did have an original contract a few years ago, which nobody else had. And the deal, the contract was we provided housing for the ambulance. They wanted to be out in our location. They wanted to get out of Troy, so we rented a facility on 278 from Del Signo. And they provided, and the agreement was, if they took an ambulance out, they would backfill one. They would bring one in, park in a Walmart. So we were covered. And that worked many, many years. And then what happened was, they decided to, they want to build their own facility. And they were looking at Folsom Hill, and they're looking at over here or there. And I encouraged them to try to build in Brunswick, which happened. And then what happened with the COVID and that whole area, now we're running in, they're telling me they're like everybody else. They can't find employees, they can't find help, especially at night, especially on weekends. So they're having a staffing situation. I've talked to them, we were covered. Everything on here?
No.
Is it your switch?
Was on.
Nothing's on.
Well, my loud voice is on anyway.
Try now.
All right?
Yeah.
Now my wife tells me to step back there.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
So, they were doing very, very well. And then they started moving, I'm gonna say, Brunswick ambulance, I call it, moving that to Schenectady or to Albany at night and not back. So, the last, I'm gonna say, month, we've had a challenge. My mentality was if they spent all that money in Brunswick, which to build the building, they would put something in it and staff it. I think we do better than a lot of towns. I mean, I do think an ambulance, especially during the day, one or two of them there, where other towns don't have that. But they tell me the nights and the weekends are getting to be a challenge. So we need to revisit. We started looking into our own ambulance. Things were going good for a while, but now things are starting to get a little tougher. So I can't tell you how many there are all the time or how many employees, all this, I don't know.
As you're aware, a potentially fatal incident happened recently at an apartment complex in Brunswick. Several people called 911. The North Greenbush Police and the state police came very quickly. They apprehended a perpetrator, thus they secured the scene. Fire number 1 from Brunswick also came.
Yep.
Um,
We are blessed because our fire personnel, we've got some good EMT people in the fire company. We are blessed that they usually respond quickly. And then the transport is what we're looking for.
Right. Now, I know that when you're waiting for an ambulance or anything else, it seems like it takes longer than it actually did. But it took a very long time for the ambulance to arrive. Neighbors and the victims themselves kept saying, where's the ambulance? Where's the ambulance? It's half a mile down the road from us.
Right. There
The
was at
ambulance
one
did not
point-
come for a long time.
Right.
Berlin was called. Berlin is 25 miles from that address. It would potentially take them 30 minutes, but I'm sure it would take them 15 if they tried. Albany Med, understandably, was called because they're the #1 trauma center in the Capital District.
Now the ambulance company tells me that even when they have a Brunswick ambulance there, they get a call, they go to the hospital, they can't get unloaded. They're tied up there, back.
I'm not talking about Mohawk.
Well, I'm talking about Mohawk. When we have a Brunswick ambulance and that leaves and has to go to Albany Med, they're telling me, Mohawk people, we can't get the patient in and we're tied up. And that, the whole system is being a challenge.
Okay. So when
Go ahead.
EMS finally came, I asked the first person, what took you so long? And they said, we don't come until the cops call us. Now, the cops got there really quickly.
Well, that situation, you had people getting stabbed.
I know that. I was,
I know,
my
but
neighbor
what
and
I'm
I
saying
were the
is
first
the ambulance,
responders
they had to secure that before they
They
had
did
the
secure
volunteers going.
very quickly as soon
Oh, yeah.
the state police and
This gentleman right
police
down here was like the second on the scene.
got there. Actually, my neighbor and I were the first and second on the scene.
Yeah.
I am a retired emergency department RN.
I've heard a lot of things about your response that night. Thank you.
I was aghast at how long it took the ambulance to get there. Because like I said, even before, the state police and the North Greenwich police came very quickly and apprehended the perpetrator, and thus the scene was secured. So it was a long time between when the scene was secured and when the ambulances finally came. And like I said, everyone was asking, where's the ambulance? Where's the ambulance? I have no idea because I have not been able to find out from anyone between the time at 7:15 when the first 911 call was made and when the ambulances actually came. But it was a long time. It really was a long time. What else was I going to say? Oh, I have to repeat again, this was a potentially fatal medical emergency. And I just wonder, with the Mohawk ambulance being half a mile
I know, but
from the scene,
that's what like.
why weren't they there?
Because the personnel is all involved.
Well, that's not a really good answer for the people
I
who
know
were
that.
stabbed.
I know that. I'm just telling you what they would.
So could you tell me again what the town is doing to secure ambulance service?
I'm sorry, what the? say that
You
again?
said you thought about having your own ambulance service because of a lack of personnel at Mohawk.
Mark? We've got to, go ahead.
So we,
This gentleman's on that committee.
yeah, I was there that night, so I can fill in a lot of the gaps for you on what you're talking about. But primarily, we formed a public safety committee, both fire departments. We've invited the law enforcement, we've invited the EMS folks. We haven't met in a while, but we were planning on meeting sometime in October. And one of the things that we always discuss at these meetings, Jack's on the committee with me, is the ambulance service and what's changed. Like as Phil said, there was a while there where the ambulance was in Brunswick. Generally, I think they had 2 or 3 during the day and 1 at night, 24 hours, and it was ALS, not BLS. However, due to other circumstances such as staffing or the track opens and the amount of gear they have and the amount of employees they have, situations change. So I know it's going to be on the agenda for our next public safety committee meeting. We have explored our own ambulance service, but there's a lot of, it's not a quick or easy process, and there's a lot of considerations that have to be made. So it's.
And that would be volunteer, correct?
That's something we'd have to look at, because the EMS problem is not a Brunswick only problem.
Oh, I know.
It's all over the place. You know, you're in the
Supposed to kill us
You're
like
in
anything.
you're in the field. It's the nursing problems out there as well, you know. And as Phil stated, a a lot of times, these ambulances get to the hospital and they wait in the hallway for 45 minutes to 2 hours. And if, you know, if you have one ambulance, I worked dispatch for years, managed the 911 center in Rensselaer County, and, you know, there is always a point where you run out of ambulances. That will happen, and you will have people responding from long distances. The trauma center, you are correct, is Albany Med, that's where all 3 of the patients went. And the Mohawk ambulances, I believe, came from Albany for that call, all 3 of them. There was a lot of people on that scene that day, and it was a team. There was a whole team that was there, including yourself. Law enforcement folks were exceptional. I believe an Albany Med doc ended up coming on the scene as well.
I guess they were riding along.
Yeah, he rode in with one of the patients. The fire department's first responders. We also called mutual aid. Brunswick Fire Department, we call mutual aid. And our assistant chief is an EMT. I believe he was down there with you, Jen Large. So, yeah, so it is on our radar. There is a lot to it, and there's a lot of things to consider. And I know it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Is that a public meeting?
We haven't made it a public meeting yet, but we can talk about that at the next meeting as well. I don't see why it couldn't be.
And what date in October is that meeting?
We haven't set a date yet, but it will be in October. After the board meeting tonight, see me, get your information.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because, you know, for the health and safety of all the residents of Brunswick, we're not covered.
No, it includes all of us too, believe me.
Oh, I know. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your help that evening.
Really welcome.
Jack, come on up.
My name is Jack Byrne. I live at 726 Tamarack Road, Brunswick. I've been there a long time. Fireman in the Eagle Mills Fire Department for the last 48 years. So I can certainly relate to your last conversation you had here. What I'm here tonight is I'm questioning where does town stand with adopting the law that came into effect last December 9th, allowing the town to do a tax reduction to first responders. I'm paraphrasing most of this because it's at least a 2-page, 3-page document here. I'm created and kind of moving along with Mark, both Marks, with recruitment within the town because we have problems here with all fire departments within the town. We'd like to be able to use this as a tool to offer newcomers. Look at, here's a benefit, one of many benefits of being a volunteer, and here it is as a tax deduction. Also aware that the school district can also adopt this as well and have some reduction there. I'm trying to make contact with the superintendent 2 days ago, and I've got no response yet. I know personally that she is involved in emergency services, and she should be quite familiar with it. Ms. Maloney, and hopefully she'll get back to me with some answers. What we're looking to do, and I do understand right now that there's $200 deductible for, you know, first responders on your income tax. That's well and fine. There's also some questions about you have to live in the district or whatnot, and I want to share the law with the 2 Marks here to review it. But I'm asking the town to take a better look at where do you stand with this? Again, if it's an option to take the $200 or your 10% tax deduction, whatever, that's up to the individual to decide. But we need the town, I know there's a lot of parts in this, well beyond what I'm talking about. But at least, you know, taking a better look at this and moving this along, it's been a year now, or coming up on a year, to adopt this and use this as a tool for recruitment.
Mark, you want to comment again? I can, but.
Sure. Yeah, Jack, and I know our assessor Julie looked at this when it first came out. She ran numbers for us, provided it to the board and the supervisor. And at the time, I believe she did a lower assessment, an average assessment, and a higher assessment. And the numbers were below what you would get on the income tax credit, unless, well, I can't say unless. I have to look back at the numbers and see if the school district made a difference. Just with the town tax break on the property tax, it would be less than what you get on the income tax. But with the school, I'd have to look at that. I think we should relook at the numbers again that Julie provided and see.
Well, rather be an option, we're to say here that it is lower than the $200, quite possible, But I'd still like to see the town adopt it, because I might encourage the school district to say, well, the town can do it, and we only have one school district, the town of Brunswick. You know, maybe we ought to take a closer look at this and benefit.
Yeah, and I think we should look at the numbers again. Well, the county, I believe the county passed a resolution encouraging the municipalities to pass resolutions, I believe, or something like that.
Then go, start at the state, and then the county level.
Right.
And then the county would, you know.
But then Julie ran the numbers, and on the average assessment, I believe the number was considerably lower than the $200 tax break.
Yeah,
And it
that
was
was
in
my
either or.
recollection, and, because we did talk right after the law was passed,
Right.
everyone was aware of it.
Right.
And there were those discussions.
But we can look at those numbers again, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, even if it is, would it still be worth it to pass that and still leave it up to the individual?
I guess the only downfall would be if a person has an option and they select that option thinking they're making out and they don't. That's the only downfall I could see with it.
They have,
You know,
come in and talk to the assessor and make up their own mind.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I mean, that could happen.
Somebody's gotta think on their own here with the decision they want to make.
Yeah.
But we should look at the number, we could look at the numbers again, I think. And then get the numbers for the school, and I could bring it to the public safety committee.
It's not just Bradenville, by the way, Jack, although that's the vast majority is
Right.
Bradenville. We do have Averill Park, Troy, and Lansingburg, right, school districts, all in Brunswick.
Oh, geez, I didn't think about that. Yeah, this is interesting. Terry Haggerty, the attorney for FASD, is very much up on this, and I suggest maybe you could reach out to him for any clarifications. He has created a form or certificate, as they call it, for the qualifications for applying for this as an individual, as a first responder, whether if you know, you're making enough points for the year, or, you know, you make so many calls or whatever. But I certainly suggest that reach out to Hannigan.
Haggerty, right?
I'll pass this on and.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
All good points. All right, anybody else at this point? Again, I got further comments at the end. Come on up.
Colleen Massiglia, 68 Oneida Avenue. I read on the website asking about the traffic report from Hoosick Street. Read on the website the information that you put about the is it the CDTA? We finally received the funding for the larger study, or is that an older note on the website? Can I get an
I'm not
update?
sure what's on the website, isn't it?
Okay, then can I just get an update on where we're at with that,
Yeah.
the road study
Where we are with the study?
on Hoosick Street? Yes.
Still going through the process. We met the other day as a focus group that you know. I put a representative from your area, one from the other side, business. They're gonna have another workshop like they had in Price Chopper before. That's the correct term, Rebecca? Workshop or public
Pop-up.
pop-up. Where the public is invited to come in and talk to them one-to-one.
Who's gonna be there?
The
Just the committee?
DOT and
Okay.
CBTC.
Yep.
Am I correct here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, because I know that we're waiting for, the larger state involvement on Hoosick Street.
Yep.
But I live in one of those neighborhoods, the town owns the roads, the town has control of some of the means by which we could control the traffic. I have a young driver. I am a pedestrian in that neighborhood, and I cannot go out at any point in time during the day and not get impacted by very fast traffic going through my neighborhood to get to Walgreens, to cut through Hoosick Street, to do a myriad of things that interrupt my daily life. So I'm right on Oneida. People come flying past, all the time. I go down to Oneida to try and find a little smaller, quieter part of the neighborhood, and they're just whipping through Genesee, whipping through the stop sign at 50 miles an hour. Because you really literally have to take your dogs and your kids and duck out of the way. Then you go a little bit further into the neighborhood because you think, wow, well, Norfolk's pretty quiet back there, we'll just kind of loop around. Not anymore, not with Hanford out there. those are the roads that the town controls. And those are the roads I really petitioned for the town to put a lot of extra insight into. Is the report available for any of us to see?
When it's finished, it's not done
It's
yet.
not done yet, so no part of the report is done.
My report, CDTC and the state,
Right, and they're really working on the corridor, they're working on the main corridor
and the sides.
and the sides. You know, is there anything that can be done in the meantime? Because I've kind of heard some things about speed bumps. They don't necessarily have to be permanent. I know they get troublesome during the winter, but they do exist to really deter traffic. And that's where we're at now. You know, increase in traffic increases pollution, increases everything inside our little neighborhood. And the safety of our kids and the generations to come is why I'm standing here. You know, my kids are driving, they are part of, but they belong in that neighborhood. Their cars belong in that neighborhood. I belong in that neighborhood, and I'd like to stay in the neighborhood.
Now, when we met the other day, okay, I was part of that focus group, of course. People from DOT, CDTC, quite blunt. At this point, they said, we're not gonna widen Route 7. There's 170 some properties that's gonna be affected if we do, plus another bunch of buildings and stuff. We're not gonna spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to affect all that property to basically save 6 minutes. It's their mentality. I'm talking to state. They say when we talk and we look at these studies, you want us to look at Route 7 as people's concerns, most people, back up, speed. What we recommend is putting more traffic on the side streets. However, we've been around long enough, what happens is the people go to different town boards, and there's a lot of people, and that's the end of that. But if you're asking how to cut down the traffic, and it's gonna be all over Facebook tomorrow, and I recommended this, and I didn't recommend this. They said, well, utilize the side roads. As we know, that's not an option. We're not gonna utilize the side roads. They talked about, roundabout, I'm sorry. They looked at Lord Avenue. They said, we just got done doing that Hannaford, Lord Avenue. That won't happen. They're looking at 142. They said that's an option. The roundabout there, up on 142. They said it's a challenge. They said the big challenge is like 26,000 cars a day or whatever. 2/3 of the traffic is not stopping. They're going through. So they said, you gotta understand, it's a major route, is what they're telling me, okay? So all this traffic, it's not going to Wendy's. A lot of them are going through. Then they get down and talk about smart lights. I don't know the different terms, I wrote it down, it's different. And then they said one technology is not existing here, but they try to coordinate the lights. To give you an example, over here on 142, or on 7, when you come up through on some different days on the weekend, there's traffic backed up all the way past the firehouse, almost up to Ginsburg's, but it's different times, and I don't understand why. It's not consistent. I had our engineer, Mr. Bonfield, call, make contact with that DOT person who happened to be at the meeting. He tells me there's a problem with the controls, I'm gonna say software, on this light in front of the Methodist Church. It's reading cars coming off 142 when the car is not there. There's like 8 cars, and it's reading like 20 cars at different times, so it shuts down 7. That's a problem. They're aware of that 2 months ago. It was reported 2 months ago. So I turned to him, I said, it's been 2 months, is it fixed? He said, well, that's a private contractor, and we're trying to work with them, and we got a lot of this. I said, well, get a different private contractor. because everybody's saying it's the supervisor backing this traffic up, and Harrington's causing all this, not the software, not a problem. But I said, that's a simple solution, guys, and you can't fix that one problem? Get somebody in here, at least, I mean, you know what, so that's what you're kind of dealing with. I think they probably will, so.
But that's not entirely what I'm asking.
What's that?
That's not entirely what I'm asking. Really what I'm asking is for some focus.
So, I'm getting there, you're worried about your neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I understand that. What they suggested to me, they said you need to look into what they call high impact, low cost options for the neighborhoods right now, something you can do. And I know people are saying the town board in Harrington hasn't done anything in that whole neighborhood. They tell me what we have done, as you know, we've put up signs, through trucks. A lot of trucks were coming out of Sickaway Creamery with no good results. Talking, I went down and talked to the Duncans, and they responded. I don't know whether it's changed. I don't think so. They've stopped running their trucks through the trailers and stuff. We put up clear stop signs. We put reflectors on the stop signs. We cut the brush. We talked to law enforcement. I myself, I didn't tell the board that it should have, not that they disagree. We put the paint on the road at the stop signs. We did the other side with a rope stop. These are, when I brought that up at the meeting, they said, well, these are the things that we're talking about. I mean, that's all I can do at this point.
Well, and I promise you, as a driver in that neighborhood, I go 15 miles an hour. I stop at every one of those stop signs, and I appreciate the fact that it tells me to stop when I need to stop. But I am not the problem.
Right.
And what I'm asking for example,
Now,
Town
if
of
you're just
Colony,
talking speed, I don't know how to control the
Town of
speed.
Colony off of Wolf Road made their neighborhoods inaccessible. They made them
Block.
one way and do not enter, so that so you can get to the community center back there, but you cannot access any of those neighborhoods off of Wolf Road.
And I mentioned that at the senior meeting. I wish you were there with me at Keith Lane. There's a lot of seniors that live in Brunswick Meadows, a lot of seniors that live off of North Lake. And they said to me, what? Because they cut over and they use the road. They said, we pay taxes. You don't want us to go through and use North Fork to get to Hannaford and stuff? So you want, no, I'm just telling you, this is the other side.
I'm not.
They want, the seniors are saying, we pay taxes, we don't speed, we go through the edges, and we go slow, and it's our road. They want to shut it off and have it completely, we don't agree with that. So that's the other thing that I get too, and we say, no, get out there on 7, so it's tough.
There are other options. I'm just asking the town to consider.
We're considering them
Speed
every,
bumps,
Yep.
one-way streets, do not enter.
Yep.
Please, because I don't think we can stop talking about this issue
We-
until I can walk up my front door and not be worried that I'm gonna get slammed by a
we
car.
haven't stopped talking about it at all. What drives me a little crazy, this is just me personally, when I go down in your neighborhood, you got Genesee and you got Norfolk. In Oneida. I'm hearing the neighborhood is ruined. It's terrible, the whole neighborhood. I go down there, the side streets, people are walking, there's basketball courts out in the road. They're playing hoop. So I talk to the people and they say, well, nobody ever comes on these side roads. We got a neighborhood, it's these side roads, the tree. Those cross little roads, there's basketball, your kids are playing out there.
My kids are not.
No, but there's kids playing.
So I've asked very specifically if you could look in our neighborhood for additional solutions.
For what?
Yeah, whether those even just experimentally be speed bumps that you can remove.
Yeah.
Let's just try some deterrents. I understand that.
We understand
and
that.
I am appreciative of everything that the town's done. We need a little bit more. We actually need a lot more, but the lot more is gonna come when the state study is done, hopefully. And these incremental changes to deter the traffic, something's gonna work. I just don't want to give up before we find out.
We're not, I'm not giving up.
I know,
Even if I lose the election, I promise you, I won't give up. I go down there, I talk to people. And a lot of those people, your neighbors, are saying to me, you know, I hear the Hannaford and all this growth is terrible. And some of your neighbors are telling me, listen, when we come home on the weekend, we're here. If we gotta go to a hardware store, we got a hardware store. If we have to go to a grocery store, we got a grocery store. If we gotta go someplace else, we don't have to leave the town like the old days, we have to go across the river. So they said, we appreciate everything, we don't have a big issue with new construction, new building or something. But that's what people were telling me, so.
You've seen a lot more police presence.
no, I'm sorry, but no. We actually saw it for maybe a grand total of 5 days. As a matter of fact, let's get my daughter ready for a school dance or pictures or something, and, it was their senior pictures, and right outside the window, somebody got pulled over. And having the conversation of, well, everybody drives really fast through this neighborhood, why did you stop me? And we laughed, and then we didn't laugh, because it was the truth. You know, we were like, wow, she gave it to that police officer. And then it's a very painful truth for us. So no, I don't think I've seen a police car in that neighborhood in 2 months.
You know,
No, sorry.
yeah, and when they were there, which I couldn't believe either, everybody's blowing through the stop sign. I'm like,
Yes.
everybody.
I would love to know how many tickets they wrote.
They wrote quite a few, but here's the problem. They had 2 sheriffs for the whole county.
I understand,
I'm just telling
I
you.
understand.
And
I'm
they
not
said,
asking for.
no, and they're saying to me, we no sooner get there, which happened more than once, and in all due respect, Walmart calls, and they got a concern. So we have to leave and go to Walmart, or somebody in Petersburg got a traffic accident or something. So to dedicate somebody, maybe another good, the legislature has meetings like we have meetings. They put the money behind the sheriffs. Now, you can talk to the state police, and I've tried. And they're pretty good, but I get a little bit more results out of sheriff. Maybe you ought to go to the legislature and say, fund these guys and get us a car, you know?
I'd be happy to. Right now.
I would
Right
suggest
now,
that.
tonight, my
Yeah.
ask is that the town really look into some of those non-permanent speed bumps. To
Yep.
deter traffic. Like, is that a possibility? Is that something I can do from the town highway department? Can I ask you, Supervisor Harrington, to sort of like take that personally and just say, hey, I'm not looking for you to put them in permanently. They do exist temporarily, but can we just see how they would work?
And that's my highway guy at first, and he's concerned with the speed bumps, but, Michael?
You want to have the liability of the first motorcycle that come down and runs over, you have a lawsuit.
But, that being said, I have looked, and they have got the I call them portables, where you can put them in and take them out.
Sure.
I am open to
I
that.
mean, lots of people had a lot of things to say when I was here asking for the four-way stop sign
Excuse me?
when I was here asking for the four-way stop sign at Genesee and Norfolk. I literally had the question like, are people gonna know what to do with that? Yes, they know what to do with it, and it's spectacular. So my question
And that was
is,
a challenge.
can we please try this?
Yep.
I think that would be a very visual, very important step for that community to see, just something, because we're just asking.
I keep doing these, I call them mini steps, you know, I'm not gonna forget.
So that's my ask tonight.
All right,
Okay.
speed bumps?
Speed bumps, you don't have to keep them there permanently, you don't have to leave them in the snow, just need them up long enough to deter some folks and then put them back in the spring. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Running his business here at some point, so. All right. Now, minutes, Bill, we have minutes of last month in our packet, but we just got them tonight.
You do have them. They're not online yet. They'll be online tomorrow. If at your pleasure, if I could interrupt the proceedings a little bit, I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Is that okay? All right. And I'm not gonna get at the podium, because this is more for the people out here and not the board, because everyone at this table is well aware. As many of you know, and if you don't, now you do, I'm retiring at the end of the year. My term is up. And I'd like to share a couple things. I need to acknowledge that my job performance this past year has been less than stellar. It's not been very good. So for this reason, as well as some other personal factors, that's why I'm going to retire, and I'm not looking for another term. But one thing that's been happening that I'm really kind of upset about is on the social media, my office, my responsibility, there's been chatter which is really incorrect and unfairly targeting my deputy clerk, and I'm mad. Yes, she works for me. I should be the one delegating responsibility. She has been doing an excellent job. And I just don't like to see this type of backstabbing going on. It's personal. It's not a professional, this is personal. And I do not like it. You can take shots at me all you want, and I deserve it. All right. The buck stops with me, though. Please be a little more polite. We have in our employee a very nice person, very friendly, very professional, and does her job well. And there's no reason to be sniping. Okay? So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Now, town clerk report. You're back on, Bill.
Nope, we're gonna let Rebecca go.
All right. Rebecca?
Town clerk report for September income, $7,816.18 will be sent to the supervisor's office. In rounded amounts, that is $3,804 in recycling sales, which includes $2,459 from the center and $1,345 sold from our office. $1,650 in rental fees. That includes 11 community center reservations. $525 are from dog licenses, which are 18 original licenses and 64 renewals. Had a lot of adoptions this month. $1,836 are miscellaneous fees. That includes $754 of vital statistics, $902 in DEC licenses, which is our cut from $16,368 in sales, and $180 in dog impound fees and fines, $0 from peddlers and $0 from miscellaneous fees. Some of the notes are, of course, as you just heard, $16,000 in DEC sales. We have been swamped with hunters and fishers, so that's been very busy. Resident stickers are still being issued, of course. We ask that you bring in your ID that should show your Brunswick address, as well as your vehicle registration, so we can complete that. Your registration your sticker will be tied to your car. And they're, of course, used to access the recycling center and the town beach next season. And of course, they are good until the end of 2024. We will be renewing maybe even earlier than 25 starts, so that way everybody is well prepared for the following year. The community center is booked all weekends through the rest of the year, with one exception, Saturday, December 23rd. And we're receiving many reservations for next year. And as a friendly reminder, early voting does begin on Saturday, October 28th, and it will run through Sunday, November 5th. And that is open to any Rensselaer County residents, and it'll be here at the town hall. Most days are 9 to 5. Only Monday and Wednesday will be 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. But it is here at the hall.
Thank you. All right, and can motion approve Rebecca's report?
Oliver.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Highway Department, Mr. Bailey?
I normally have a nice written out cleaning. Today's been kind of crazy, so
I'm gonna wing it.
I'm gonna wing it a little bit here, gentlemen. The first thing we did this month is we did a bunch of line cleaning in the Cicero area. It seemed so good on the one side, that we moved over and did it on the other side. It does seem to have made a little bit of an effect, baby steps and rapid. We started grinding the brush and the weeds out here through a contract with Bonded that was awarded last month. We're up at the landfill doing that section now. Kevin has started putting the leaf boxes on all of the dump trucks necessary to pick up leaves. The garage, going through the leaf backs and updated them and put everything together. Hopefully we'll go through the season without the trouble we had last year. So that might make it go a little faster. The other thing that we did, which no one wants to hear, is we started putting plows on trucks.
Well, you don't wanna think about that.
1987 is 3 days before. Need to be a little prepared for that. So Kevin has a crew working on that, just in case, keep the insurance policy good. We did a bunch of mowing, some of it had supervisory trouble. I apologize for that, Mr. Harrington. Because doing the fields and the parks and doing the right thing, and it seems like I feel a lot better.
No. I'm in hot water all the time, you really said. All good.
Forest Park, the cemetery, we did spend a couple days up there mowing a little bit, so the Historical Society can have their walk through in a couple of weeks. So that's got John Spear, because he's kind of owns a big mower most of the time. A lot of the work this month has been done with doing ditches. We ditched MacArthur, the grass seed, and that put it all back together. We did over on Gator Hill by the one wet spot that was there. There was probably 1,000 feet of ditching that we did that was necessary to get done. Then we also went up on South Road and did a major part of that. Took days and days to do a lot of that because we were taking out sometimes 3-4 feet of dirt, trying to move things around, get stone back in place and play with the weather. The big project for the month was working over on Wyworth Road. We went through cutting all the brush back, cutting ditches in, redoing a couple of big culverts, making the bridges a little bit wider, and put new gravel down and new pressure run down and straighten the road up. It's been a long time since it's been done, and you want to appreciate it very much. It's something we did. That's kind of one report.
Excellent. All right, entertain a motion for Mike's report.
I'll offer. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bradley. Water department.
Good evening.
Bill?
Just make a comment about the sick-way traffic there.
Did she leave?
Yeah, she's leaving, but I'll just make it, there might be people out there.
No,
I mean, I am one of those people that use the neighborhood.
Yeah, there are a few of you out there.
Yeah, on a regular basis. That being said, we just came back from Saco, Maine, not too long ago. And Saco, Maine has tabletop speed bumps, speed humps. And if they can do it in Maine, well, why can't we try it here in Brunswick?
Yeah.
I plowed for 7 years in the city of Troy, so I understand plowing well. And you have to be well aware of what's in the road when you're plowing, or else it can literally jar your teeth right out of your head. So there is a great degree of caution that would be required when you're plowing those roads. But maybe we should contact the Department of Public Works in Saco, Maine, and say, hey, how do these work for you? Get an opinion from someplace that, they're in the Northeast and they're in the snow, so maybe we can, have the best of both worlds, allowing you still to cut through the neighborhood, but while controlling traffic for these folks in that neighborhood also. So that's just kind of my own personal opinion.
She left before the meeting was over. I did want to mention, we were working with Wayne Bonesteel, and that was an option. He is looking, we are looking at these speed bumps. He is looking, we are looking at making North Fork a one-way. Not sure which way yet. So we are doing these options. We're not forgetting things, but we're doing that.
I'm
Slow
aware
steps.
It is a very difficult situation. It is. Back to my job. Water and sewer report of September 2023. We recently, third quarter sample for our THMs. We were trending upwards there. With the warm weather, with the extended rains and the fertilizer runoff, there's a 62 square mile watershed. There's a lot of farming activity that feeds the reservoir. We've been using a lot of chlorine to treat what they refer to as dissolved organics in the water. The chlorine not only reacts with whatever bacteria that may be there, but any other organic materials, and it causes these THMs, the formation of THMs. I have contacted the city of Troy, and they are the lab director there. They're making process changes to try to address the dissolved organics and be able to degrade those organics so they can be filtered out of the plants, which will help us in the long run. But just be aware, these numbers are trending upwards. It starts at the source and comes all the way through the different communities that not only ourselves, but also that we feed hosts and killing that. So it's just something that, we need to be, I spoke with Anne Marie, actually it was yesterday morning, and they said they had started in September to change their process to see whether they could do a better job of treating the water at Troy, and that will help us. Otherwise, if we keep going on this trend, we will be in violation. And hopefully that will not happen. The good news is we did our lead and copper results. They all passed. With all the water samples that were tested, they all passed. No elevated lead or copper levels in the water. New York State DEC, not this past month, the previous Tuesday, they came out to visit the solar fields. Part of the design concept is these access roads, and some very long access roads. They're supposed to be porous, permeable pavement, arrangements, and they're just finding that they just fail in the state. They're not working out at all. We have a similar situation in one of the currently active projects here where it's not going to meet the standards. So we're reaching out and starting that conversation with the folks there to say, hey, you're not meeting the standards, you gotta make some provisions and changes there. But DEC wanted to visit because we're nice and close, and we have several fields that have been active over the years. A couple of them were these for us, and want to take a look at them, just so that they can reach out to different engineering firms and different communities. They're leaning towards just eliminating this, as a standard. So we're essentially working with them to help provide information. We did a test dig for our 16-inch main, which goes under the Vanderheiden spillway in preparation for the relocation and installation of the new main. I'm reviewing a proposed easements with our attorney. There's 2 properties that we need to acquire easements, and once we have an opportunity in-house to take a look at this, we'll then make decisions on how to reach out to 2 property owners to acquire these easements to allow us to relocate the water line. We've had, again, going back to the rain, quite a few stormwater inquiries. Most of them are just the result of saturated soil conditions, and people are. Well, I guess next week's gonna be a little bit better than they initially said. We had week upon week of rain, and the sun angle's getting low. Ground's not drying up. People don't like these wet backyards and runoffs. And, some of it's stuff that we may be able to control. Other stuff is that we have no controls on private property. We repaired a 6-inch water main on Country Club Road and installed a new hydrant over there. And lastly, our water and tax assistant, Julie Berkovich, is going to leave us at the end of the month for a well-deserved retirement. So I'm putting together a job description for public posting so that we can interview and backfill her position. I just want to say publicly, She's been a joy to work with, great personality, infectious laugh. Miss that, so.
That's an understatement.
That left.
so.
We tried to talk her out of it.
I know, we're trying hard, but she's
Her
got her
husband wants to
family.
spend more
and everything
time,
else.
but can't hate him, so.
Yeah, so, life is going.
How hard would it be, I'm just curious, in your department, that you could do like a daily report for a week or two? Let me know what your crew is doing.
Yep.
Because I visit with Mike every day, once or twice a day, and I know pretty much exactly what his guys are doing. But with your guys, I always see like the two younger guys are always together. I don't know, is that a necessity? I mean, I don't know,
No, well, it's, well, right now, you know, now that we have 3 people in the department, they've split up, they're split up in 2 different vehicles at this point in time, 3
They
people
are.
are 2 different vehicles, okay? So,
One reason I'm asking is every year we approve a budget, so we get you more meters to be installed.
Yeah.
And every year we just keep improving, but past it, you're up to 500. Seems like it's taking a long time. And then I see 2 guys together all the time, and to me, I'm wondering, do you need 2 guys to put 1 meter in? I don't know what your workload is, you know?
so to answer your question, yes, we will provide you that information.
Okay,
And yes, there's times where it's necessary for 2
yes,
people to be
I understand that too.
And then other times, no. How you manage that is not easy in this business because this is a business for people with ADD. The fact that you get called to a sewer call over here, a water call over there, a stormwater situation over there, a closing. So it's not a general, like many jobs, you know, that you go out and this is exactly the task you're going to perform today.
Yeah.
You know, you'll get into the middle of that task and you'll get called into another task. We have been making a conscious effort. One of the things I did make a note here is the fact that we only have 2 hydrants out of 300 some odd hydrants that are out of service right now. They'll be back in, both will be back in service by the end of next week. So, you know, we're trying to keep up on hydrant maintenance. We have the GIS that they've been filling in on as they do locations map. We're locating, this is all going to be part of this requirement for this mapping for the lead and copper new rule that we have to map and document every single water service that we provide service to, which is a huge task. And, you know, the major first cut has to be completed by next October. So it's, and then going back to meter replacements, you know, we make appointments. Sometimes we get there, people don't show up. Julie, if she was here, could tell you that she sends out 2, 3, 4 letters to try to get to a house. You know, you don't always get in. So that is a slow process. And then you get into a house and run into a little bit of a problem. You can't shut the valves off and that. So it's, we will provide the details of what they do.
I'm kind of curious because you just lost an employee for 36, 37 years. I mean,
Yeah.
so now you've got 3.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge for you, and I'm curious how you're gonna handle it.
Yeah.
You probably are too, so.
Well, no, I have given them, you know, in some sense, I have given them a lot more rein than maybe I should, but at the same time, if I don't give them that rein to learn and try to make some little mistakes, like we had a little mistake go on this week that took 3 days to correct. Dropped an operating nut down a hydrant that literally took us 3 days to fish it out versus having to dig that whole hydrant up. And that was the only hydrant in the neighborhood, so therefore we concentrated our efforts at getting that repaired. So, now those kind of things happen.
That's what my father used to tell me, they're gonna go broke teaching us boys how to farm it.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand trying to learn.
So yes, but we can do a much better.
I was born and raised there.
We can do a much better job of keeping you informed.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve bills. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Tom, town attorney?
Yes, good evening. This past month, I attended and participated in meetings with staff and outside counsel on various matters at town office or by conference call or remote meeting. September 22nd, September 25th, September 28th, September 29th, October 6th, and October 10th. Prepared the resolutions which are on the agenda for this meeting. I attended a special meeting of the town board on October 3rd, 2023, at which the town clerk handed up the supervisor's 2024 tentative budget to the town board, starting this year's budget adoption process. This evening, I attended and participated in a special workshop meeting regarding the budget process, and I also prepared the public notice for that meeting. I've been continuing to work with outside counsel on 2 pending litigation matters involving the town. I've been continuing to work with a law firm engaged by our insurance carrier to represent the town with respect to some pending litigation. Been working with the building department regarding some pending and prospective enforcement matters. Been working with the supervisor's office on some personnel matters. On September 18, I attended a public hearing in connection with an appeal pending before the zoning board of appeals, in which I represented the town's code enforcement officer. I prepared and submitted 2 legal memoranda in support of the town's position on the appeal. And as always, I performed legal research, provided legal opinions, and reviewed or prepared legal documents as requested by various town officials and employees.
Entertain a motion for Tom, which is a question.
I will make it.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Tracy, town historian.
Good evening, gentlemen. So tonight's little history, little lesson is, I've been researching the Duke family that used to live in the town of Brunswick. Mr. Duke, Thomas Duke, originally came from Ireland. He immigrated in 1897. I found in the 1881 town tax records that Thomas Duke owned 125 acres on North Lake Avenue. That property is located right across the road from where now Pestner Lane is. I believe this farm was at one time a part of the Sickaway Creamery. Mr. Duke first shows up in the 1900 census, and it states that he was a farmer and he remained there until his death in 1943. The family grew flowers and vegetables, and in 1913, the Dukes were advertising in the newspaper that they had tomato plants for sale. In 1944, the Dukes worked with the Department of Public Welfare to distribute 1,000 tomato plants in 1 week. I also found an article that Mrs. Duke would donate flowers to the local police stations for planting in the spring. The business became known as Duke and Sons Florist. Thomas Duke Sr. ran the business for 60 years. Both his son Thomas Jr. and his brother George helped run the business and continued to do so after the father's death. I'm not sure when they ended the business, but I do know it was before 1956, because that's when they had a barn fire, and some of the contents that was found in the building contained dismantled greenhouse, a dismantled greenhouse and other tools. So I thought that was very, because I never really knew that existed. So the greenhouse, North Lake Avenue, kind of excited me. I've also been getting ready for the walkthrough at Forest Park. That will be on Saturday, October 21st. As always, expecting a large crowd. I think we have 70 people signed up already. So anybody that wants to sign up, we encourage them to go to the Brunswick Historical Society's website, just to give us an idea of how many people we need to prepare for. And thank you, Mike, for taking care of that already, because that's on the list. So that's it, gentlemen. Any questions?
Entertain a motion.
I'll make it.
Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Tom, recycling.
Recycling report for September. Blue bags purchased at the center, we had 369 at $3 for $1,107. Blue bags purchased from the vendors, 600 at $1,530. Purple bags at the center sold 175 at $2 for $350. Our metal, light iron, and tin, we had 2.23 tons. And now at 224 a gross ton for $446. Our bale cardboard, 2.81 tons at a penny a pound for $56. Our miscellaneous large and small appliances, we had 11. TVs, we had 23. ACs, we had 4. Tires, 22. And 1 dehumidifier for $761. That gave us revenues of $4,250. The expenses, refuse landfill, 21.85 tons at $85 a ton for $1,607. Single stream recycling, 11.14 tons at $50 a ton for $557. Car and truck tires, 0.2 tons at $5 and $20 each for $131. And refrigerant recycle removal, we had 18 refrigerators, 13 ACs, 17 dehumidifiers, and 1 cooler for $193. And the expenses were $2,489. We recycled in landfill for September 38.23 tons.
Very good. Entertain a motion for Tom's report?
I'll make it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, good.
All in favor? Brunswick Community Library. You can go first. Nobody's here, huh? Okay.
No, I'm sorry. She emailed today. She's ill and was going to try and send somebody, but I guess that didn't happen.
Okay. All right, Bill, or Rebecca, resolution?
Resolution 50 declaring items to be surplus property.
All approved. I'll second it. We've got an asphalt reclaimer, 2014, 1993 Toro, 345 mower. Surplus. Okay.
This resolution was introduced by Councilman Sullivan and seconded by Supervisor Harrington. Roll call vote, Sipperly.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balistrary.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
This resolution has been duly adopted. Resolution 51 of 2023, resolution approving 2024 tentative budget as 2024 preliminary budget of the town of Brunswick.
All approved. I'll second.
This resolution has been introduced by Councilman Sullivan and seconded by Councilman Balistrary. Roll call vote. Councilman Sipperly.
Aye.
Councilman Christian is absent. Councilman Sullivan.
Oh, yes.
Councilman Balistrary.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
The resolution has been duly adopted.
While we're on that subject, should we set the
Oh, yeah.
preliminary hearing, or should we set the public hearing for the preliminary budget?
Yes.
What do you think, Jim? You got the calendar there?
Usually do it.
Before the board meeting?
The deadline, no, well, I think this month, this year, or this month it will fall on the board meeting. But it's the,
Yeah,
it's
Thursday.
no later than the Thursday following the general election.
Okay.
So isn't that the,
That is the regular board meeting. Yep.
what is it, the ninth?
9.
9.
Yep.
So the ninth at what time?
6:30? Yeah, 6:30 is fine.
So the public hearing on the preliminary budget will be November 9th.
November 9th at
At
6:30.
6:30 PM. Excellent, thank you.
Correspondence?
We have one correspondence from Joanne and Frank Casey. We want to thank you for cutting brush on Joy Lane. The long arm guy did a very good job, and we do appreciate it very much. Also, as a side note, today if you follow our social media or Facebook, Rensselaer County residents have the opportunity to dispose of car and small truck tires for no charge, up to 25 tires per household. Registration is a first come, first served basis. I do not know how many slots there are. If you need more information, either follow Town of Brunswick on Facebook, call me tomorrow, and I will give you the phone number or how to register. But you can have up to 25 tires per household, only for Rensselaer County residents.
Where's these going?
If this is coming from the Department of Water and Soil Conservation, I believe.
Where's the drop off?
Oh,
The drop point.
don't ask me details. That's all I remembered was that it's, believe it's October.
I think it's in Cropseyville, isn't it?
It is
At the-
Cropseyville.
at
You're
the-
right.
at
You're right.
The county highway.
That's correct. You're right.
It's up in Cropseyville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want 25 free tires here.
Save you some money. They're $8 a tire here, so. We don't mind the revenue.
See, we don't make any money.
We don't make any money.
Oh, no.
Okay, old business? Any old business? New business? Lawrence? Jim?
Make motion, we pay our bills, please.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Further comments from visitors at this point? Anybody got anything to say?
Motion.
Come on. How are you, sir?
Adriano Buongiorno, 598 Kenhardt Road. I had a question regarding the solar pilots, or just pilots generally. Is any of that revenue shared with the school district?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It is?
big percentage of it.
Okay, all right. And the other thing?
I can't remember the numbers, it's like what, 50% or
Yeah,
something.
they're signatories to the pilot.
Oh, okay. So they're on the for the front end.
And the county, right?
Yeah,
County, town, and
County, town, and school.
Okay. And also with regard to, if you guys do a resolution, asking the county or interfacing with the county for, a tax rebate for, volunteer firefighters, I would also ask that you ask the county to look into, some kind of an agreement or something with, the community college to see if we can get younger folks in as well. I mean, I think that the tax breaks work for folks that have houses, and properties, but, to try to get some younger folks into the volunteer fire services, sometimes doing something like college credits or discounts on courses at Hudson Valley could be beneficial as well.
Okay,
So, all right, that was it.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just make a comment on that.
Come on.
Guys,
Yeah, no, get this microphone, we want pages.
just want to make a recommendation, I mean, it's a great idea. Look at the FASB website, I think that's already in place.
In the county?
Well, I think it's just where, not anywhere, is the first services.
Lewis Hutter, 228 White Church Road. I guess sympathy on you for the traffic on Hoosick and.
What's that?
Yeah, my sympathy for the traffic at Hoosick and the side roads and Sickaway. You probably know White Church Road, we're in the middle of nowhere. And on all the curves, people have cars sliding into their front yards.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everybody has problems with traffic and, you know, it's kind of fun to sit
Sitting out
there.
where we are.
I assume right in front of you, I see people, they make time, it's a problem we have everywhere.
And speed's a problem everywhere too.
Yes. I have one question, this is the last meeting, I asked about two with the poor conditions that DOT gave us for a paving job in Eagle Mills and mismatched speed limits. Was anything done, will anything be done with contacting the state to fix it?
After you mentioned that, I purposely kind of drove down and tried to notice. I didn't notice the pavement being bad. I don't recall the mismatched speed limit part, but in fact, I think it was right after the meeting, I drove all the way down Route 2 from Eagle Mills there, and I didn't
That's
notice.
the Eagle Mills paving job,
Yeah, I didn't
a
notice.
separate one. Every catch basin,
Yeah,
they bumped up the traffic. I think the paver went up over the catch basin and came down on the other side. Heading, started Christensen, head west. The first one is the worst. It's about 40 miles an hour when you get thrown in your car. You go about that much.
all right, I'll do that again tonight.
Well, I can always give you a ride.
I was conscious last time looking at it, I didn't notice it.
We got no control of this, the state, but
Yeah.
they deserve to do better for us.
Yeah.
And
Remind me on the mismatch speeding again.
Between the flats, that would replace the bridge,
Yeah.
the 55 speed limit zone.
Mhm.
Westbound is 55, eastbound is 40. And the people don't like the 40 because they know the speed limit is 55, so they start passing people over the double yellow line, start getting road rage and so forth, because they know
So going towards Troy, it's 40.
55.
55.
It used to be 55 both ways. They took
But
down the
now
signs
coming
from Troy
from
east.
Troy east, it's 40.
Right, they never put up the
Okay.
55.
I think they left a construction speed limit
Do you
sign
notice
there.
that, Jim? Yeah?
Yeah, when the bridge construction was being done, they only had that short distance.
Yeah.
It was 55, so they took down the 55 limit sign, and they never put it back. I'm fine with that. I'm gonna take down the other 55.
There you go.
We'll stand right behind you, Jim, while you do it and say, go for it.
Give me the town truck, and I'll take it down.
All right.
I might be
Use Mike's truck.
Yeah, we were, when we did try it, in fact, the neighbors tried hard to, with our support, with DOT, to get the
Oh, yeah.
speed limit lower.
Yeah.
Well, they changed the signs, you know,
And-
when you have a
and-
mismatch, there's a problem.
And so they would not lower it from the 55. They said it wasn't warranted.
So
They
they looked
turned
into
everybody
it.
down on that request. So I guess we take the 40 and you know, as best we can. and not bring it up, I think.
It's a half victory.
Go slow in one direction.
Yeah.
But they don't slow in one direction.
No.
Just get out of my way, because I think the law still says 55, and, you know, they know it's supposed to be 55, so which means 65. But anyways, it's a problem we have in the town. The state is one that takes care of it. But the town complains a lot better than an individual. The other thing is, you know, I come up periodically on signs. Is there any reason why the zoning, the building department is not going around and having the preliminary to too early election signs being removed? We have, the problem is, one's running for the town supervisor, it's a good example, and one's running for the sheriff in the county. Now, when those two do it, and it's like, okay, the town selectively enforces the zoning law, you might want to ask your right-hand man, what does that do to our zoning law when the town selectively enforces?
Well, you know, signs are a whole issue because, you know, you've got implications of free speech and things like that.
You're listening there, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, as far as the enforcement of the signs, you know, there's a lot, there's things that I think can be enforced, like for, you know, some of our commercial signs and things like that. And, you know, there's various arguments that can be made about this, about political signs and whether and to what extent they can be regulated. I'm not advocating that people just disobey signs, disobey laws, and not comply with the regulations that are there. But I'm just saying that there are arguments that can be made about the constitutionality of signs and of you know, there's, when we regulate different signs in different ways, like you regulate signs that are for political in different ways than you regulate signs for non-political and actually commercial issues. When you treat them differently, then you also run into constitutionality issues. So there's a lot. Our sign law can use some improvement. It's old, and I think it's another thing that we should look at improving. When we did the rezone, we just imported the old zoning law, which goes back or the old sign law, which goes back many, many years into the zoning law. We didn't want to pick out too many things at once, and it is something that we got to start looking at.
Okay. In terms of the supervisor's sign, election time, won't be much longer now, but I started real easy on the signs, mainly because it's raining and everybody's lawns are still growing, and I don't want to stick them on the lawns. People have to mow their lawns all the time. So I put up very few signs in the beginning, and then Facebook comes out and says Harrington lost all his support. Nobody likes the guy. There's no signs up. So then I said to my wife, maybe I better put some signs up. So then I put up a few signs, and now Facebook changed to Harrington's running scared now. He's all over the place putting up signs. All right. Whatever, can't win, so, won't be much longer now, so. All right, anybody else? I just want to say at 1 o'clock today, I was just sitting here thinking, as mentioned, my deputy supervisor, Gordy Christian's wife passed away, 55 years old, young, 55 years young, I guess I should say. Terrible thing, known as cancer. Her mother and father were there today, both in their 70s at the service. Well, that's tough. Both Gordy and Susan's children were there. Susan's child, Brady, got up and somehow got through it. So it's tough. And then I'm walking out the door and somebody says, how do you handle politics? People attack you. They say all kinds of nasty things. People, I tell you, when you go home, it's kind of like my age now, but go home and enjoy your loved ones. Seriously, things change so damn fast. And, you know, whether people, I mean, it sounds like a major thing. If your culvert pipe's got leads in them, or we don't get there and we don't pick up your brush like we should, it sounds important, and it is important, but there is nothing as important as losing somebody 55 years old. So gotta just take a step back. We'll solve this brush stuff, and we'll try to solve the neighborhood problems, and it's important, but we got a whole team to do that. But when it comes to losing your wife, I mean, it's tough. So go home and enjoy your family. With that, I'll adjourn the meeting in honor of Susan Christian. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Have a good night. You too. Exit in the bottom So I hit that. That's what I wanted to get the name there.